I'll be sharing on what I've captioned, Virtue Has Gone Out of Me. Virtue has gone out of me. Just speak to your neighbor as if you understand what I'm going to talk on and tell your neighbor, say, Virtue has gone out of me. Now we can do a modified form. Tell the person, say, virtue flows out of me. Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. We'll be reading from verse 25. Mark chapter 5. From verse 25. It says that, and a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press, and said, who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and seest thou who touched me? And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him, and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, daughter, thy faith has made thee whole. Go in peace, and be whole of thy plague. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So here, a popular story we know. The Bible talks about a certain woman who indeed had an issue of blood, and she had suffered this thing for 12 years, and she had been to many physicians, and the Bible says that she has spent all she had and still was not better, and she grew worse. But then it says that when she had heard of Jesus, verse 27, she came in the press behind and touched his garments. For she said, take note of what she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. So it tells us a woman who had suffered for 12 years said, I am going to where Jesus is. When I get to where Jesus is, I must of necessity touch his clothes. There's the Jesus himself there, but her focus is to touch his clothes. If I may but touch his clothes. She says, if I may but touch his clothes, I shall be whole. Her whole focus is to touch his clothes. And the Bible says in verse 29, it says, and straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. So by coming in contact with the clothes of Jesus, his garment, she felt it in her body. From his clothes, she could feel something inside her body, that she was whole. Now, take note of this. In verse 30, the Bible says, Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned about in the press and said, who touched my clothes? So notice, after the woman had touched and got healed in her body, Jesus turned round and he felt that virtue had left him. The woman touched his clothes, but Jesus felt it in him that someone had tapped virtue from him. A contact with the clothes of Jesus somehow corresponded with something living inside of him. And he asks the question, he says, "Who touched my clothes?" Virtue has gone out of him as Jesus, but yet he could tell that this virtue that has left my body happened not because someone touched my body, but because someone touched my clothes. So coming in contact with the clothes of Jesus was enough to draw power from the person of Jesus. Let me repeat what I'm saying again. Coming in contact with the clothes of Jesus was enough to draw power from the person of Jesus. Say it with me. Say, virtue goes out of me. Say it again. Say, virtue goes out of me. So remember, in Stronger Mode, we have this understanding that whatever we see in the life of Jesus is an example for us. The works that I do, you will do also, and greater. So every time you pick your Bible and you see something Jesus did, a way Jesus behaves, is supposed to be a standard for us. And this is one of those standards. It means then that Jesus had power in himself, but Jesus also had power in his clothes. Jesus had power in himself, and Jesus had power in his clothes. How did Jesus get the power in his clothes? The power in his clothes came because of the power in him that flows out. So because the clothes has contact with his body, his clothes becomes partakers of the power of him. And whoever comes in contact with the clothes of Jesus likewise draws power. So power does not just reside in people, it can also reside in what they wear. As I journey on, I will hit, it can also reside in where they are. Whilst this might look so complicated for you to easily believe, it's easier for you to believe if I tell you that sickness can dwell in clothes. That you'll be able to understand. Someone like Lord, who is in the health profession, will be able to explain to us easily on that. Clothes can contain sickness. That one person who has a certain kind of sickness, they will tell you, no, don't come in contact with what the person is wearing. Some of them, when the person has worn that stuff, they will go ahead and burn clothes. Because the person has put a sickness that was in his body, it is now contained in his clothes. So if you pick the clothes of this person, the sickness that was found in his body will be found in your body. Meanwhile, you did not come to the person's body. You came for the person's clothes. But yet what was inside that person's body will now be found in your body, because you came in contact with his clothes. Sickness flowed out of his clothes. The same is true concerning virtue. Here, virtue refers to dunamis, power. So, from you, from me, power can flow from within us, even onto our clothes. Virtue can flow from within you even to your clothes. So you must treat your clothes well, because you should have an understanding from here that my clothes cannot be ordinary, because my clothes come in contact with me. The Bible talks about when they had killed Jesus, when they had stripped him off to crucify him on the cross, the soldiers, they cast lots to pick his clothes, his undergarments. Why would they do that? We don't know what was the worth of the clothes. The Bible did not tell us that because he wore very expensive clothes, they did that. The Bible does not tell us that because his clothes came from Egypt, that's why they did that. All we're told is that it was his clothes. So why were they going for the clothes? Because it was for Jesus. There's something that is within you that is expected to flow out of you. Not only does sickness occupy clothes, sickness also occupies a space, environment. So when a person is sick with certain forms of sickness, they will not allow the person to move freely. They will tell the person, you stay in an isolation room, a place where you are alone. Don't mix with people. But I thought we should give the person freedom. He's not to hug people. They say no, just the fact that you are moving within space is that you are leaving out something you carry is being occupied in that environment. So they say keep your environment closed, be in an isolation room, so that what you are carrying in your body, we will not find it in another person's body. COVID-19 was a good example of that. Where somebody starts having some symptoms of COVID, they say no, once they trace the person, they would isolate the person. And anyone who has come in contact with such a person is supposed to be isolated, taken also. Once you are within that space, sickness has dropped into that environment. When you go into Leviticus chapter 14, God was talking about the sickness of leprosy. And he said that when you go into a house and the house has been infected with leprosy, someone there has leprosy, he says all the people from that house should be taken out of the house and washed. But not just the people, you must enter the house and inspect the things in the house, the clothes and the wall, to see if the sickness has been put in the house, so that the house is destroyed. It's not just a person that is sick with leprosy, the house is also now sick with leprosy. That someone who did not have leprosy before comes into the house and the house now gives it its leprosy, because the house is leprous. So a house can contain sickness, so also can a house contain healing. So also can a house contain power. That when someone steps into this house, then they receive the power. Somehow things have been structured, configured in our minds to get so used to believing the negative. We know how real, how powerful negative energy are. But when it comes to the real divine power, then we start believing in unbelief. It's easy to convince you that an environment can occupy sickness, that you can be passing from here to here, and a doctor can come, a health professional can come and tell you that in this place there's a sickness center. They can put a tape around it and say this is a place you shouldn't go, because this area has been infected with sickness. But yet you cannot see sickness in the space, but they are telling you that sickness has occupied that space. There's nothing empty between, let's say, where I am and where Vanessa is. When you look at it, generally speaking, it's just, if I'm standing here, it's just supposed to be straight. There's no obstruction. But realistically, in between me and her are so many things that are there, that are present. There's really no vacuum. In between person A and person B can be sickness that is occupying a space. One of the interesting definitions we're told in school is on the subject called matter. And we are told that matter is anything that has weight and occupies space. Anything that has weight and occupies space. So if I ask you, for example, with this little definition, what then is matter? Purely by examples, you can show me the pulpit and tell me definitely this is matter, because it clearly has weight and it is occupying space. You can point at the flower vase and tell me this is matter. It clearly has weight and it is occupying space. You cannot now come and tell me is matter because it has weight and it occupies space. I would want to see what you are saying has weight and it occupies space. What is it? What are you seeing? What spirit is inside you that you are seeing what? But they gave us examples or the structures of matter. They said that we can agree, because I can throw something at you. I can pick this mic and throw at you, and you will realize that it is solid, because when it hits you, you know it has weight and it occupies some space in your head. But I can also pick water and throw at you, and you will feel the same thing, that it has weight and it is occupying space. Please turn to your neighbor and pick some little bit of air and use it and slap your neighbor. Now we know the mental people. Okay. Now, so air we know is just air. When in the Hausa language, there's something they call daniska. Don't There's something that has weight behind me. It's occupying my space. Thank you. So there's something, an insult, they call it, they say Dan Iska. Dan Iska means, yeah, weight, air. To show how you don't have value. But yet we are told that something occupies space and has weight, and air falls in that category. You might not appreciate that until you are driving and all of a sudden your car can't move, and then you go and meet a man called a vulcanizer and you tell him, my car is flat, my tire is flat, I want it to be filled so that it has enough weight to carry my car. And he doesn't go and bring pure water and starts filling the tire for you. You react to it. What madness is this? He doesn't bring stones and fills it in. He brings air and he puts it in. Then you would appreciate that this air has weight and occupies space. So clothes as matter can contain the power of God, but so can space, air. An environment can carry a power from within you. You can channel a power that is in you to get into your goods, to get into your things, and ultimately to translate into your space. So Genesis 1, the Bible tells us of how God created man in his image, in his likeness. 2, we see how it indicates that God formed man out of the dust of the ground, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So this was man who was just brought out of the dust, and next thing, he's just there, and God comes and puts air, breathes into the man. But there's a definition to the breath. It's called the breath of life. And the moment this man took in it air, the man became a living soul. The air from God into the nostril of a man made the man to become a living soul. So occupying that space of air was the life of God. Occupying that air was the life of God. As God operates, so are you to operate. Now you should understand that if I was made in the image of God, my breath contains life. From within me, the thing that comes out of my mouth is not empty. It has weight. It occupies space. So I can program what I want to occupy this space. What it then means is that when you come and you enter, let's say there are no chairs here, there's no pulpit, no flower, no nothing. What you are likely to say is that this place is empty. What science tells you is that there's something that's occupied the place. It is really not empty. There is something there that is probably what you cannot see. Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. Verse 11 to 13, it says, "And into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till ye go thence. And when you come into an house, salute it. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you." Jesus said, when you go into any town, when you go, inquire who is worthy in this place. Who in this place is worthy to receive me? When you get into an environment, don't just step into an environment just like that. Who in this place is worthy to receive me? You see, you must understand who you are, the value of who you are. They cannot send you, let's say you work in a big multinational company, and your boss sends you to go to a town to represent him for a program, and you get to the place and you decide to go and pitch with a friend of yours in a face me I face you one, face me I face you. You don't know face me I face you. I don't have salt, you have salt. I borrow your salt, you come and borrow my paper tomorrow. We are just opposite each other. And then you go and you stay there because the person is your friend. If your boss should hear of it, you'll be disappointed. Because when they are coming to look for you after the meeting, that is not where they should find you. The company is likely to ensure that you stay in a good hotel because of who you represent. It is not pride, it is knowing you are not there on your own. The same way, Jesus says, when you go into a town, you must check who in this town is worthy for me to abide. Who in this city, who in this school is worthy to become my friend. All the investment that has been deposited in my life at Strong and Wood, who in this is worthy to be my friend. I cannot just be the friend of anyone with the investment God has given in my life. Who in this company is worthy to be my colleague, that we go and eat together? Who is worthy? And he says, when you get into that town, then you go also into a house. And he says, when you come into the house, you salute it. You recognize the house, you give respect unto the house. You are not the one that built the house. Respect the owner of the house. He says, and if that house be worthy, notice again, if the house be worthy. Why must this house be worthy? Why must the town be worthy? Because you don't cast pearls before swines. You don't put what is valuable before people who don't appreciate value. So you don't go to a place carrying virtue and power and you present it to a people who have no acknowledgement for it. If indeed you carry power, you must make sure you are at a place where they don't despise what you carry. So he says, you get to the house. If the house is not your house, but if the house be worthy, you are given a commandment. He says, let your peace remain. It is your peace, but your peace should remain. It means that if you are leaving and you are going, we can see you going, but we can still see your peace there. Let your peace remain there. It is your own peace. So it doesn't mean you're working with pain or distress. No. It is your peace. It flows from you. You can let it remain in that environment. That from that moment, this house that was always in trouble, because you came into that environment, now they have peace. This house where father and mother were just calling and this and that, because you are there, there's peace. This house where you was having nightmares and this, because you've come there, there's peace. This house where they say it's like a haunted house, some evil spirits are always coming to disturb. They say they died some way, so because you've come, your peace remains in the house. Your peace occupies a space. And it says, but if the house is not ready, let peace return to you. If in that house it's not worthy of what you carry, let your peace return to you. Let that thing you carry, that virtue you carry, let it not occupy that space anymore. Let it return to you. It means that you can become the source of peace for a place. If you have peace within you in your house, you must not always be there to settle the fight. You must, if I'm a peace, there's always the house. But when I show up, somehow we can bring order to the place. If that is what you can do with your being there, your physical presence, have the ability to leave what is in you in that place. That when you are not there in the house to settle the quarrel, still peace left there because of you. A virtue you carry is left in the house. Psalm 16 verse 11 tells us that it says, thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. It says, you will show me the path of life. In your presence, the things where you are. God's presence is not him. It's the things that are associated with his being in a place. He says, in your presence is fullness of joy, and at your right hand pleasures forevermore. So it's giving us details of what you will find when you find that. If you find God in a place, fullness of joy. If you find God in a place, there are pleasures forever. Here's the question: what will people find in your presence? Please write that down. If you heard what I said, what will people find in your presence? Write it down quickly. Please don't step into a blessed generation without writing anything, so that God can speak to you. Write it on your phone. Write it down. What will people find in your presence? What is contained in your presence that people can find? It says, in his presence, fullness of joy, at his right hand, pleasures forever. So when you know the things that are contained, that are present where you are, you will be so intentional about the things that can happen where you are. Very, very intentional. For example, I know the reality of healing where I am. What is that thing that is present where you are? What is that thing that in your house must never be missing because you are there? I'm not saying food, because I can cook. There will always be bamboo. No, I'm saying, what is that virtue, that spiritual power that will never be missing from your house, that will never be missing your workplace, because you are present? So it says, in is fullness of joy. In your presence is fullness of what? Get that answer. Some of you might have to dedicate time within this week and saying, Father, let me know that thing that is present. I am there. What is that thing that has been deposited inside me? It says, now unto him, Ephesians 3:20, that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you ask or think, according to the power that worketh inside you, within you. So, Father, what is that thing that when I step into a place, I have the ability to leave it at the place? Because you see, the fact now, as compared to the physical and then the spiritual, on the physical, a person can carry and get into a place and is just releasing it by heart. In some places, maybe the person can be conscious to know that, okay, you don't cough. By coughing, you might transmit it. But on the spiritual, it is such that you must trigger it. It must be triggered. If you don't trigger it, then it means someone else must trigger it. It doesn't just happen by chance. The place does not just come saturated with power just by chance. Someone was triggered. In the scripture we read in Mark, the woman said to herself, if I may but touch the hem of his garment, I will be whole. She triggered it, and so she received it. The other people that were there, Peter and co, were touching the same body, the same clothes, but they received nothing, because you have to be intentional about it. So here is a woman intentional, but when she did it, there was a Jesus that knew. Immediately it happened, he knew within himself. He said, virtue has gone out of me. There was someone that he said, everybody is touching my clothes. He said, this one, I felt the power leave me. So if your environment must from what you carry inside, then you must adequately know it, so that you can speak that thing over your environment. You can speak that over my environment is a place of life. For example, I know my place in life. Death cannot just come to me by chance. That doesn't happen. I cannot just be attacked by chance. I will ahead of time. And for me, I don't keep quiet. I will mention it to 2 things. I have been showed this time. I have been showed this. So I understand the place of life within me. So it means when I get into a place, I must ensure that I speak life. What it then means is that it's not permitted anywhere around me without my knowledge. There was an experience within their house one time. There was a fear of someone who had gone. As I was told, in between leaving my room to the place, I knew it was not happening. Now, people might or may have heard the panic, but the moment you won't hear the prayer. Why? You see, I was conscious of the fact that life is present. So if life is present, then I must speak that life into my environment. That in this place I live. Yeah. Death is not permitted to come into this environment without my knowledge. You can't just like that. No, God will come and tell Moses, I'm taking you to go and kill you. So you get ready. You are gone. Then Moses go, and then God comes to tell Joshua, he's like, let's get ready, let's wait. Moses will be coming from prayer, and then God comes to them and say, Joshua, Charlie, Moses, my servant, is dead. He said, where's the body? Even when Moses was taken, the Bible tells us the prince of the world, they were looking for his body. They were craving for the body of Moses till Michael had to rebuke. Because they understood power contained. Elisha is dead. Now, don't mistake that the spirit of Elisha was still in his dead body in the tomb. That would be funny. What is the person's spirit still doing inside the grave there like that? Then it means when people die, they suffer. You die, then your body is now experiencing heat, especially if you're not in a place like Ghana. Already, we that were outside like this, we are suffering heat. Then your spirit is now inside the ground like that. So Elisha's spirit was not in his bones, but virtue from his spirit was still there. This was a bones that carried his body all through. You can't tell me Elisha will have life and his bones will not have life. So if a dead person comes in contact with a body, a bone that was attached to this spirit, it will jack back to life. What is that thing you have that you can consciously release into your environment? Say, in this environment, this is not permitted to happen because I carry it. I must release it into my environment. It is so real that once you're in that environment, listen, you can speak and it will enter into anyone that steps into that territory that this is a place of life. This is a place of peace. This is a place where you cannot cause trouble. If you want to cause trouble, you must leave this place. The Bible will tell us about how when Balaam was contracted and cursed the people of Israel, he said, let's go to a particular place, because there are places that you can't do some things. There are places that things happen. He says, let's go to this place and we'll curse them. And they went to that place, but God came and stopped immediately. And when God stopped in this particular place, Balak said, okay, now let's go to another place, another strategic place, because there are places that things can happen, and your place should be one of those places. That in my place is a place of creativity, around me is a place of this, around me is a place of peace, around me is a place of fulfillment, around me is a place of health. What is that virtue I carry that I must release into my environment? If that place salutes you, leave your peace there. If your home, you are acknowledged in your home, you have parents that are kind to you, siblings that respect you, aunties that are good to you, you must be so unspiritual to be in such a nice home and there's no spiritual virtue out of you that you have left there. Jesus said, if a house salutes you, you must leave your peace in that house. Your peace is needed. Don't just say the peace of the Lord. Your peace is needed. In Genesis chapter 26, Genesis 26, I'll read verse 1 to 3. It says, and there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee. I will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abram thy father. Let me skip to verse 12. It says, Then Isaac sowed in that land, and received in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. Now let me skip again to verse 16. It says, And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. The Bible says there was famine in the land, similar to that of the first famine. So in this land, famine is not too new. Then Isaac realized the problem. The problem was in the land. There is famine in the land. There's a problem with the land. So Isaac, in wisdom, decides, I have to change location, because a land can contain famine. The land is not absent, the land is containing famine. And then Isaac says, I'm going to leave this place to Egypt. Then God says, don't go down to Egypt. Why is Isaac's problem? Why does he want to leave Egypt? Leave Gerar? Because there is famine in the land. Then God tells him, don't go down to Egypt. Here is what I would want God to tell me if I was Isaac. Don't go down to Egypt, for I am going to cause water to come upon the land, and my power and blessings will come upon the land. And this land that was a land of famine shall become a fruitful land. That is what I would want God to tell me in such a situation. But it says, do not go down to Egypt. It says, dwell in this land, and I will bless you. And I will give you all this country. I'll perform the oath which I swore unto Abraham. So God tells him that the problem with the land, I'm not going to solve the land, I'm going to solve you. I am going to bless you. You said the problem is with the environment. I want to put something within you that can change the environment. It says, and then Isaac sowed, and the Bible is putting, he said, it didn't just Isaac sowed. It says Isaac sowed in that land. Why is it mentioning that land? It's making you understand that it's that same land of famine. Now Isaac is sowing in that same land, and he says, and he received in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him, not the land. The Lord blessed him. So now you have the blessed man Isaac sowing in the land. That land is not farming as long as, or it's not in farming, as long as it is Isaac that is the one sowing. The seed of Isaac is blessed. It can be physical, it can be agricultural. His seed, it cannot come from his hand and go into the ground and still not be fruitful. The Lord had blessed Isaac. His environment speaks of it. How do you know it was only the environment? Now the verse 16 said, and Abimelech said unto Isaac, we are told the problem from the beginning is a land of famine. And verse 16, Abimelech the king said unto Isaac, he says, go from us, for you are much mightier than we are. Because they had also tried to sow in that same land and realized that they were still in famine. But there was an Isaac who was blessed in him, whose blessing could lift him into his seed and leave his seed in the land. That whilst everybody are in famine, Isaac, who virtue flows from him, can talk about an increase. So even when they chased Isaac from that land, and Isaac went and he began to dig wells, Isaac will go to a place where there was no water, and he will dig and he will find water. But the others know they have been digging and were not able to find water, so they come for his well, and he will leave them alone and say, you see, it's not about the well you are chasing, about it's about me. So he goes to another place and digs a well again, and he finds water. It was in him into the environment. There is something God has deposited in you. You must speak it into your environment. You must make it so real in you that it must reflect into your environment. Your environment can contain an aspect of God. Jacob got into a place. He said, God is in this place, and I did not know it. He got to an environment that looked empty, discovered that God can be found in this place. Jacob had traveled so many places, but there was a particular place he just got to, and somehow he could find that God was in this particular place. There has to be people who will go through so many experiences in life, but somehow when they come into your space, they discover that God must be in this place. God is in this place. So, if God's power within you can translate into your clothes, into your environment, it then means that the devil will be interested in your environment. Let me also add, it means that the devil can also be interested in your clothes. It then means that the devil can be interested in whatever you put you into. know that even the fetish and the demonic world, they can inquire of people, can you get me this thing of this person? We want to do something to the person. We want to scatter the person's head. We want the person to just start walking around and turning his head. And the person has done his hair. It's just, he can call it natural hairstyle. But this one we can tell that he has lost his senses. We want to make him mad. But if we tell you, go and bring him, and he's come and say, why are you taking me to? You say, remember that day you insulted me? He says, yes. You said that my generation not prosper. He said, yes, I'm going to meet some juju man. And now he said, I should bring you. Why? He will deal with you. Who will follow? Nobody will go. So the man says, you will bring his clothes. You will bring this. You will bring this item. You will bring a spoon. And we know that if we can touch this item, we touch him. If we can get access to this man's item, then we can get access to him. There is him in what he is wearing. I can change him by changing something he's carrying. I can alter his destiny by tampering with something that has come in contact with him. So the devil is interested in your environment. He's interested in the things you carry. A good example will be what I just talked about, Jesus. When he was, they said, come on, let us get his outfit. The disciples were not concerned about it. They've carried him. The world knew this guy. Let us, we will cast lots. We will divide this thing. All of us must get a piece of this man. So if the devil is interested in your environment, that becomes a good reason why you must then preserve your environment. In the book of Daniel, Daniel was praying to go and inquire revelations of the Lord, and the angel came to meet him, even Gabriel. And when he came, he says that from the first day that you had set your heart to seek understanding, I was sent. But when I was coming to come and speak to you, he says, I encountered the prince of Persia. He said he withstood me these 21 days, and Michael had to come and fight to release me to come and speak to you, and now I have come. So people were there in Babylon moving around, in Persia moving around. They had no idea that over that space was a prince that was governing how things will happen there. They had no idea that their prayers would have been answered day one, if not for the fact that there was a prince of Persia that wanted to control that environment. There is no environment without a leader. I mean, most especially a spiritual leader. Your house has a spiritual leader. Announcement. If you are not the one, sorry for you. Your house has a spiritual leader. Spiritual authorities that govern. They call it spiritual wickedness in high places. So there are spirits that become princes over territories. They take over that territory. You can choose to become that spiritual authority over your jurisdiction. That if an enemy wants to come, I'm not talking about your angry neighbor, I'm not talking about your angry landlord, I'm saying that some demonic power wants to come into your terrain. When they come there, they sense already within that space that there's a leader here. He said he withstood me. So here are these Hebrew boys in Babylon. Here they think they're just there alone like that. They think things are just happening there like that. They have no idea that there are things out there that are controlling their environment. There are so many principalities over the space you occupy that you are not aware of. Your office is not vacant. It is either being led by you, probably led by another strong believer in Christ, but it is led by something else. That is the reason why you come to church and you are praying on Sundays. When the writing was put on the wall and Daniel was sent to come and interpret, the woman said, this guy, the spirit of the gods, they dwell in him. We can recognize that this thing, it looks like it's a spirit game. Normal people can't have the ability to handle it. Now, here's part of the interpretation of the writing on the wall. It gave the timeline for the die of what was written on the wall. Showed when that the king was to die. After that, take notice of this. The king decided to promote Daniel to control the territory. Why? They looked at this guy Daniel, in whom the spirit of gods are, and they thought, if only we can have this guy governing Babylon, probably we'll have peace. Pharaoh, you think it's because they liked Daniel? No. The interpretation of his dream too, or the writing, was terrible. If this spiritual guy can be our ruler, how powerful that will be. You think Pharaoh loved Joseph? That he just looked at Joseph and admired Joseph and said, oh, you're a wonderful guy, I'm going to promote you. It's only in name that we are. Not at all. That is not going to be the reason. Why? Bear in mind, you must remember how Egypt was. Egypt is a place, oh my goodness, that is ruled by the gods. Egypt is a place that is ruled by the gods. You don't come into Egypt as a normal person. There are principalities that rule Egypt. They are gods. So when you see Moses, he's giving a rod. He's not giving words because it's a spiritual environment. He goes there and he casts the rod and becomes serpent. The people say, this one, we too, we can do it. So Pharaoh goes and calls the other magicians and astrologers and tells them to do the same thing. So Egypt is a place where it's the gods that rule. So Pharaoh has this dream and then get Joseph to come and interpret the dream. Listen to the exact words of Joseph. When they told him, he said, I had this dream and this and this and that. He said, do not all interpretations belong to God? Then he added, tell me them. This problem you are talking about, it takes only God to solve it. And because it takes only God, so tell me. What it takes only God to do, tell me to do it. So he goes and he interprets the 7 years of famine. That's what I'll be touching on Sunday morning service next week. 7 years of harvest. Because if I put 7 years of famine, people will run away. So you have to start 7 years of harvest. Okay, all right. So he goes and he interprets it. Then Pharaoh looks at this guy and said that it's only in name, but now I'm placing you above all Egypt. Why? Because he had found someone who was spiritual, someone in whom the spirit of the gods dwell. So territories are governed by spiritual authorities. No environment exists without any spiritual authority. It doesn't matter how arrogant a president is. Check, they always have spiritual people they listen to. Either in the fetish, either Christian, either Islam, there's no nation in this world where you find a physical ruler that does not submit to any spiritual. US, Ghana, Togo, whatever level it is, they submit because they recognize. So no space exists without that. Jesus stepped into a particular city, and when he was approaching the place, they started reacting, the demons in the place. They said, do not come and destroy us before it is time. And they pleaded with him, and they said, you cast us into the swine. And Jesus casted them there, and then they went and then they drowned it in the water. Immediately that happened, what did Jesus just do? Jesus just delivered a city from the torment of evil spirits. What do you think is supposed to happen next? Next, they are supposed to now come and tell Jesus. This should be the first place where they'll come and do triumphant entry for him. Put their clothes there and welcome him, and now become the governor of this city for this which you have done. No, after Jesus did that deliverance, they casted him out of the city. The people in the city and said, let us chase him from amongst us. Why? Why would you do good and evil becomes the reaction? No, because of the principalities that govern the city. So in your environment, make sure that in your environment, God is true. Your environment. It says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. It means that there are nations whose gods is not going to be the Lord. But blessed is that nation, blessed is that home whose God is the Lord. Blessed is that workspace whose God is the Lord. So in your place, you must be so confident because of what you have deposited in that place. Ensure that you are the spiritual authority in the name of Jesus over your territory. That over your home, no demon can come from anywhere into that space and cause havoc. No, now you are rising up as a king and a priest in your territory. Don't be so careless. You must know who is in charge of my territory. What are the possibilities present where I am? How many people here over the past 10 years you have been walking around town and then someone comes and grabs you? Here you come. Today I am going to change your gender. You are not longer going to be a man. We are going to give you something else. Yes. You who are those who like keeping their hair high? Is your hair higher than mine? Mine is higher now. Okay. They look at the way your hair is long and they say, the way you're already wearing bracelets. Someone like me today, I'm not wearing bracelets. The way you're wearing 2 bracelets like that, there's a lot of pink on your outfits. Just do your hand like this. Let us see. Okay. Then they give me a new gender. How many of you have had an occasion over the past 10 years where someone forced you to change your gender? Let me see your hands. Don't be shy. They grabbed you and they say, from today you are no longer guy, you are now lady. You are no longer one person, you are now we, plural, they, them, us. You've not had that experience. So why then is it that if none of us here, despite our different work professions, school, whatever, different home residencies, despite all these things, none of us can say we have been forced into this thing? Why then is our parliament not ease over all these issues? Why do they start panicking when you and I are certain that no one has come to grab us to go into the LGBTQ, RSTPQI? Yeah. You see, no one is going to come you to force you to change. No one is going to come to meet you to force your child to change. What they do is that they will come into your environment and force your environment to change, but they will not touch you. They have no business with you. Oh, so nobody has come to grab you. Who told you? The movie you watched, where this movie was a guy that was doing like this, and the movie was so sweet. The picture quality was so nice. What do you think happened? So they are not fighting you, but they recognize if we can do this long enough in your environment, after a while, some people start thinking, some people start second guessing some little issues. So they are not so much focused on you, they are focused much on the environment. They are focused much on touching things. They are focused much on, you love football so much. Yes, okay, that is all. All we have to do is to go to football that you like to watch. And then we will get the captains of this football team just to put a band around their hand that shows that we stand for this. If they do that, what have they done to you? They didn't put it on your hand. They just put it in something that gets into your environment. And if it can get into your environment, they get to you. My room, my bedroom is like a chimney. The reason I say that is because it's not too close to the kitchen. It's not even the closest room to the kitchen, actually. But I don't know how God has designed it. That when they are cooking in the kitchen, somehow the scent lives there and it comes and resides in my room. The scent can finish in the kitchen. You can go there and then you cannot perceive it anymore. But if you come to my room, you can tell what they cooked in the kitchen before. Now, how many of you can prepare shito here? Okay. Wonderful. Lord, it's good that you kept your hands down. Please raise it up. Yes. Okay. So now, wait, Mighty, was your hands up? Cannot even cut a bag of rice that cut his hand. Oh, goodness me. Now, okay, to keep him company. Now, how many of you was preparing? Whilst you were stirring it, mistakenly, it was not intentional, mistakenly, in all your years of preparing shito, mistakenly, the shito, like as you're just stirring, somehow, it just left the saucepan and entered inside your nose. How many of you have experienced that? I have. How many of you have? Wait, you must be kidding me. You were stirring it, and all of a sudden, mistakenly, it entered into your nose, like the thing just boom. You. Okay, then it's only you, because me, I'm not. But then, why is it that so many times when these people are preparing shito, you will now find them coughing and find them sneezing? Why are you sneezing? Why? You are preparing the shito in the place. The shito in the saucepan is in your environment without you realizing it. From it being in your environment, you saw it within your environment, but you did not realize what environment has now entered you. When you realize it has entered you, is when it starts affecting you. When all of a sudden you start coughing, then you now realize that, the shito is no longer in the saucepan. It's now inside me. It did not mistakenly jump inside and entered. It went into the environment. I was okay that's in the environment. I don't see any of you worried that shito is in the environment. No, you are not worried. You keep doing it, like those in my house. They'll keep doing it and it's tormenting me, but they'll keep doing it. They don't feel it because it's in the environment. But I know it has left the environment and it's inside me because I'm coughing in my room. So the devil knows if he comes and enters into you, the next day you will run to your pastor. So he leaves you alone and he goes to your environment. But you are okay that your environment is getting corrupt. You are okay that your environment is producing movies that does not glorify God. You are okay. Your environment is producing music that is destroying the mindset of people. You are okay once it's not an evil spirit entering you until you start coughing. So I must take charge of my environment. Pain cannot come into my environment. Some of you need to get into your marriages and be so certain that there will not be pain or strife there. Why? Because you are going to meet the most understanding person, that whatever food you want is the food your husband or your wife will prepare for you. Wherever you want to go, straight away. You will never have to argue over the painting of your wall or not. I don't know who, except if it's a robot. But you would have issues where you would have disagreement on. But what is the difference between having disagreement leading to a quarrel? What you carry and live in your environment. You can say, in my environment, there's no space for fight and divorce. There's no space for bitterness. In my environment, it's not possible that one person will go to sleep in the night without us talking. See, you can speak it. You are not speaking to the ears, you are speaking to the environment. Let that person sleep. Let your husband sleep in the night without wanting to talk to you. Let your wife speak. Because you have spoken it, he will wake up in the night. honey, I am so, we need to talk. See, speak it that it becomes so real. It becomes so real that no voices over you can speak over your environment. So now let's go to the beginning to end. The woman had gone to meet many physicians. The Bible said that she had suffered from many physicians, suffered from many pastors, suffered from many counselors. And it had taken her 12 years. But she said to herself, if I may but touch his garments, I will be whole. If only I can come in contact with his garments, I will be made whole. And when she did that, Jesus said, virtue has gone out of me. Who did this? The woman realized she could not hide herself. She said, I was the one. I was in this pain, but I came in contact with your garments and I was made whole. You see, you think I am talking about the story of the woman with the issue of blood and Jesus. No, now I am at the end. I was talking about that at the beginning. Now I am talking about you. I am trying to speak a testimony into you where someone says, I have been going through this issue. I've suffered from so many people, but I don't know what it is. But somehow when I came in contact with your clothes, somehow when I came in contact with your book, somehow when I laid down on your bed, somehow when I ate this food, somehow I was healed. People can eat food and remain the same. If the people that understand food, their eyes will be open. You can be walking on the road to Emmaus and you are confused. You don't realize the spiritual reality of Jesus with you. But if you get there and it's Jesus that does that, prepares that meal for you, your eyes will be open. There's something that happens when Jesus is the one preparing food for you. I'm trying to tell you, there can be something that happens when you are the one preparing food for someone. That someone, you know that when people are sick, sometimes they tell them change your diet. And if you can adjust your diet, things can change. You can be healed not because of an injection. You can be healed because you now started eating. How much more when what you are eating was prepared by the hands of one that carried the power of God. Elijah can be at a point of giving up, but if it's an angel that is lesser in glory than we are, if it's an angel that is lesser in power than we are, if it's an angel that prepares that food and gives it to Elijah has strength to go for 40 days. If it is you that prepares that food, it can release strength. Let virtue flow out of you into your clothes. Let virtue flow out of you. See, let's forget all the dramas that you might see on social media. Pastor said, my clothes this, they do this, I'm selling my clothes. I'm selling. No. You are selling your clothes. They don't need to buy. They should come to Strong and Good. All of us can give our clothes and it will produce results. It is not a thing for the special. It's a thing for the people of God. Just the same way sickness can be carried in clothes, and it's not about a person being special to carry that demonic sickness and spread it. It's the same way you just need to know your reality in Christ and know that out of you flows this virtue, and command that my environment will speak of this virtue. God is in this place and I know it. God is in my home and I know it. God is in my office and I know it. Why do I know it? Because I am there. I am there, so I am so certain that God is present there. The power of God is present in my home. Why do I know it? Because I am there. They will tell you, my folks here from the house, they'll tell you, one person comes and says this person is not feeling okay. Straight away, why are you now telling me? Where's the person? Quickly. It's not waste of time. Why? I am conscious. I am there. This should not happen. This should not happen. You are there. Some things should not happen. Start growing in it. What are the things I am tired of happening in my environment? Some of you know that for you, you are a peacemaker. For you, you have understanding. But the problem is that in your house, you are the only one that has understanding. Everybody now, the way they think. So you get annoyed because you seem to be one of understanding in an environment of foolish people, because you don't realize that understanding can equally be transmitted in an environment. Listen, foolishness can be passed on in an environment. Stupidity can be passed on in an environment. Wisdom can be passed on in an environment. How do you know? Haven't you heard so many times? People will say that the same Ghanaians you will see throw rubbish in the gutter are the same Ghanaians you will see travel to the US, travel to the UK, and they can obey laws. What is the difference? It's the same Ghanaians. It's just an environment. We are all here behaving well. Nobody asks you to sit down and cross your hands like this, to stay calm, relaxed. No, nobody has said that. But you see, an environment can dictate how you behave. Some of you might meet someone like Anna and say, this lady is so calm. My goodness me. She has been sitting from beginning of the teaching. She's like this. Change the environment. This hand cannot be folded like that. Meet her at TH Dynasty. You will think she's the whole play. But you see, it's the same thing with all of us. You are all here so calm. I can't hear your voice until the environment changes. No one tells you how to behave. Your environment tells you. You get into your house. Even within the house, there's the behavior within the sitting room. And there's a behavior within your bedroom. There are some people you can allow in the sitting room. And we meet you there. It is okay. But if we meet you inside your bedroom, what we see in your bedroom and what we see in your sitting room can be two different personalities, two different outlooks, two different ways we are dressed. What's the difference? It was an environment. So you can contain wisdom and make your environment reflect the wisdom. Moses had that spirit of wisdom. Joshua, no. How did Joshua get it? Joshua got it not because he studied books. It's in Joshua 1:8 that God now tells him in this book of the law. How did he get it? It says, and the spirit of wisdom was found in Joshua after that Moses had laid his hands on him. So it was transferred to him. So you can be in a place and people will start walking in line with you. People will start thinking, even your enemies, it says, when your ways please God, he will cause even your enemies to be at peace with you. Can you please rise up on your feet? Luke chapter 6 and verse 19, it says, and the whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went virtue out of him and healed them all. The whole multitude, everyone wanted to touch him because they recognized that virtue went out of him to heal everybody. The whole multitude. I don't want you to leave this place with a one-person testimony. One person encountered me and got healed. I want you to leave this place with the mindset, a whole multitude. There are times I get into a public transport and I'm sitting there and someone is seated by me. And as I sit down there, maybe I'm meditating, maybe I'm just normal, and then I can sense something the person is going through. I'm seated by the person and I know I don't need to call the person to introduce myself to the person or say whatever to the person. I know the person is seated by me. And so I address the person's situation because the person is seated by me. You can decide that I'm going to work tomorrow. I sit in the church, or I can decide what will happen around me. Jesus said that if death, or God said, if the spirit of God is going to come around. But here's the thing: if you can put the blood of a lamb on the door, an environment has been preserved because you marked the door, not because you marked the people. Because the environment has been marked, a people are secured. Put the blood not on their foreheads, put it on the door lintel, and everyone in that environment is secured. You can put a virtue of preservation, of protection on an environment such that everyone in that space is preserved. Moses did not have to carry the rod and move from house 1 to house 2 to house 3 so that they'll be secured from the angel of death. If you can mark the environment, everyone there can be secured. For some of you, the preservation of people around you can start from today. For some of you, someone in your family, someone in your office that has always had a particular pain can end it tomorrow, because you are leaving this place and deciding virtue is going to flow out of me. I know you carry the power of God, but now channel that power. Be so intentional. Now, when you take your clothes and you are ironing them, don't just iron it just like that. This is not just a cloth I'm just going to wear. This is a cloth that is going to contain power. Let it be your mindset. This is a cloth that is going to contain unction. This is a cloth that is going to contain virtue. Let that be your mindset. That someone is going to come in contact with my outfit and receive power. Someone is going to be healed. Someone going to hug me and receive a blessing and receive peace of mind. Some people are not sick in their bodies, they are sick in their minds. So you might see them okay, they don't have to be treated, but somehow they are tormented in their minds. They are worrying about their children, they are worrying about their business, they are worrying about the school. They lack the peace. But Jesus said you can live your peace in an environment. So you can saturate your clothes with so much power that you hug a person and all of a sudden the leaves and now the person is smiling. Why? Virtue came out of you. Can you just in a few seconds go ahead and decide and speak, declare, my environment is going to draw out of power. My environment is going to draw out of my